Okay, this happened a couple of months ago. I was pulling an all-nighter finishing a huge project for work, fueled by way too much caffeine. Around 3 a.m., I realized I was completely out of clean socks for the next day. Priorities, right? So I ended up at the soap spot. This kind of dingy 24-hour laundromat that's the only one within walking distance of my apartment. Usually I avoid it, but needs must. Place was totally empty, which wasn't surprising at that hour. Just the hum of the machines, the buzzing fluorescent lights overhead that made everything look slightly green, and that weird, damp detergent smell. I threw my socks and a few other things into a washer, started it up, then settled down on one of the plastic chairs to wait, trying to stay awake by scrolling through my phone. The washers were lined up against the back wall. Opposite them, against the front wall, which was mostly large plate glass windows looking out onto the dark street, were the dryers and the folding tables. I finished my wash cycle, transferred the small load to a dryer near the middle of the row, and fed it quarters. While the dryer tumbled, I decided to use the folding table right opposite it to sort through some papers I had in my bag. This meant I was standing with my back to the front windows, facing the row of machines against the back wall. So I'm standing there, sorting papers under the harsh lights. In front of me are the dryers, and next to them, a row of those big front load washers. The ones that weren't running were just dark. Reflective circles of glass, like big blank eyes. I was focused on my papers, but out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement in the reflection on the dark glass door of the washer directly opposite me. I glanced up properly at the reflection. It showed the folding table, me standing there, and behind me, the reflection of the front windows looking out onto the dark street. But there was something else in the reflection too. Standing outside the laundromat, on the sidewalk just beyond the pool of light from the window, was a figure. Tall, very tall and thin. Just a silhouette, really distorted slightly by the curve of the glass, but definitely the shape of a person, standing perfectly still, looking in towards me. My first thought was maybe it was just someone walking by late at night, but they weren't walking. They were just standing there, motionless. And the way the silhouette was positioned in the reflection, it felt like they were looking directly at me, even though I couldn't see any features. A little prickle of unease went down my spine. Being watched at 3 a.m. in an empty laundromat isn't exactly comforting. I kept sorting my papers, pretending I hadn't seen anything, but sneaking glances up at the reflection in the washer door every few seconds. The figure was still there, unmoving, just a tall, thin shadow against the slightly less dark street outside. Maybe waiting for a bus? Except the bus didn't run this late on this route. Maybe waiting for a ride? Why stand right there, staring in? After a minute or two of this silent observation, the reflected figure slowly lifted an arm. Long, thin arm, pointed directly at my reflection in the glass. Held it there for a second, then slowly lowered it. Okay, nope. That's not normal. That's not someone waiting for a bus. My heart started pounding, and this felt deliberate. Threatening. I quickly shoved my papers back into my bag. Needed to check this out for real. Taking a deep breath, I spun around quickly to look directly out the front window. Nothing. The sidewalk outside was completely empty. No tall figure, no one waiting, no one walking by. Just the empty street, the parked cars across the way, the streetlight casting long shadows. What the dot dot? I stared out the window for a good 30 seconds. Empty. Deserted. Had I imagined it? Was it a trick of the light? A weird reflection from something inside the laundromat bouncing off the washer door and the front window in a confusing way. It must have been. Had to be. There was no one there. Feeling a bit shaky, but also slightly foolish, I turned back towards my dryer and the folding table. and glanced instinctively at the reflection in the washer door again. He was back. Or maybe he never left. The tall, thin, dark silhouette standing outside on the sidewalk, perfectly still, exactly where I thought I saw him in reflection moments before. Watching me, a cold dread washed over me. This wasn't a trick of the light. How could he disappear when I looked directly, then reappear instantly in the reflection when I turned back? Was he hiding somewhere just out of sight, timing his movements perfectly with mine? Or was the reflection itself somehow wrong? Lying? Forget folding. My dryer still had time left, but I didn't care. I just wanted out. Now I hit the stop button on the dryer. Thankfully it popped the lock. Immediately on this model, he yanked the door open and started pulling out my still damp clothes, stuffing them frantically into my bag. My hands were shaking. I refused to look at the reflection in the washer door again, but I could feel it. Felt like eyes boring into my back from that reflected silhouette. Bag packed, I slung it over my shoulder and turned towards the front door, forcing myself to look directly through the glass. Empty sidewalk, empty street. No figure. Okay, just gotta walk out. Quick and calm. Took a step towards the door. Glanced sideways. Couldn't help it. At the row of dark washer windows. And in the reflection on number 7, the one I've been watching, the silhouette was moving. It wasn't just standing there anymore. It was taking a slow, deliberate step towards the laundromat door in the reflection. Towards me. That was it. Didn't think, just reacted. Spun around. Ran for the heavy metal emergency exit door at the back of the laundromat. The one I knew led to the sketchy alleyway behind the building. Slammed the push bar. Burst out into the darkness. Heart pounding like crazy. Didn't look back to see if the front door was opening. Just ran down the alley, out onto the next street over, and didn't slow down until I was back in the lobby of my own apartment building, leaning against the wall, gasping for air. Safe. Out. The immediate threat, real or perceived, was gone. That was the resolution. But upstairs in my apartment, even with the doors locked, I couldn't shake the image of that tall, thin silhouette in the reflection. Was it real? Some creep lurking outside, playing a terrifying game of appearing and disappearing? Or was it something else? A hallucination brought on by caffeine and lack of sleep? A trick of the light and glass that my paranoid brain twisted into something menacing? The lingering feeling is the worst part, the uncertainty. The violation of feeling watched, even indirectly through a reflection. The way the mundane, a dark window, a reflection, became charged with dread, it made me hyper-aware of reflections, of windows at night. And I definitely haven't been back to the soap spot, especially not after midnight. Some reflections are better left unseen. Doing laundry is usually mindless. A chore you zone out during. Load, wait, dry, fold, repeat. You don't expect ... surprises. Especially not inside your own clothes after they've supposedly been cleaned. Finding something that doesn't belong, something put there by unseen hands. That happened to me once, late one night at the Foster Avenue laundromat. And it completely shattered that feeling of mundane safety. Turned a boring chore into something else entirely. It was a Sunday night, probably pushing midnight. I was the only soul in the place, which suited me fine. Just wanted to get my weekly load done and get home. The usual laundromat soundtrack was playing, the gentle slosh of my washer, the hum of the dryers I wasn't using yet, the slightly off-key buzz of the fluorescent lights overhead. I had my headphones in, listening to a podcast, leaning back in one of those uncomfortable plastic chairs, basically on autopilot. My wash cycle finished. I paused my podcast, pulled out my earbuds, transferred the wet clothes to a big industrial dryer right across the aisle. Fed it a small fortune in quarters. Those things are expensive. Hit start. The familiar rumble began. Okay, another half hour or so. I sat back down, picked up my phone again. After a few minutes, though, I felt weirdly restless. Like something was slightly off. Couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe just the silence settling back in now that the washer wasn't going. Or maybe the coffee I'd had earlier was making me jittery. I decided to start sorting through my laundry basket, getting rid of old receipts and lint, just to do something. Pulled out my jacket, the one I'd worn earlier that day, and tossed in the wash. Checked the pockets automatically. Habit. Empty, as expected. Then I grabbed my favorite pair of jeans, the worn-in ones I practically live in. Gave them a shake before putting them in the to-be-dried pile. Something small and light fell out of the back pocket and landed silently on the linoleum floor. Huh? I frowned. I always check my pockets before washing. Always lint, forgotten tissues, maybe a straight coin, sure. But this looked like paper. I bent down and picked it up. It was a small piece of paper, folded very tightly into a tiny, neat square. Looked like it had been torn from a notebook, and it felt dry, completely dry. How could a piece of paper go through a full wash cycle and come out bone dry and still perfectly folded? My heart started doing a funny little skip. This wasn't right. This wasn't mine. I never put notes like this in my back pocket. Hesitantly, I unfolded the small square. Inside, written in faint pencil, in small blocky letters, was a single sentence. Behind you now. I froze. Absolutely froze. Read it again. Behind you now? The words seemed to leap off the page, charged with immediate terrifying implication. My breath caught in my throat. Every hair on the back of my neck stood on end. The humming dryer suddenly sounded incredibly loud, then faded into a roaring in my ears. Someone was behind me right now. According to this impossible note that appeared in my own pocket, every instinct screamed at me to whip around, to confront whatever was there. But the words on the paper held me paralyzed for a split second. Don't look back echoed a line from a different story, a different fear. What if looking confirmed it? What if seeing it made it real? But I could not look. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, fighting against every trembling muscle, I started to turn my head. My eyes darted towards the reflective surface of the dark dryer window first. Saw only my own wide, terrified eyes staring back, the empty laundromat reflected behind me. Then I turned fully around. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Just the rows of silent washers against the back wall. The empty chairs, the closed door to the small, grimy bathroom in the corner, the humming change machine. I scanned every inch, every shadow. Nobody. I was completely alone. Relief washed over me, so intense it left me weak-kneed. I leaned against the folding table, trying to catch my breath. Okay. It was a joke. A sick joke. But how? How did the note get there? And why that message? My mind raced through possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. Did someone put it in my pocket before I came to the laundromat? And somehow it survived the wash? Highly unlikely, given how dry it was. Did someone put it in the washing machine itself, hoping it would end up in my pocket? Also seemed far-fetched, or the most disturbing thought. Did someone slip it into my jeans pocket while they were in the dryer? Or even while I was taking them out just moments ago? Had someone been hiding in here, watching me, waiting for an opportunity? Were they still hiding? I looked around again, frantically this time, heart pounding anew. Checked behind the tall dryers. Looked under the folding table. Pushed open the bathroom door. Empty, Smelled awful. Checked behind the change machine. Nothing. No sign of anyone. But the feeling of violation was overwhelming. Someone had been close enough to touch my clothes to plant that note. And the message itself, behind you now, was it a warning that failed? Or a threat that was interrupted? Or just a mind game? The laundromat no longer felt empty. It felt thick with unseen presence, with malicious intent. I grabbed the crumpled note, wanting to tear it up, destroy it, but I stopped myself. Evidence of what? Sounding crazy to the police. Forget folding. Forget waiting for the dryer cycle to technically finish. My clothes were warm, mostly dry. Good enough? I started shoving everything. Jeans, shirts, socks, underwear, frantically into my laundry bag, not caring how wrinkled it got. My hands were shaking so badly I kept dropping things. Kept glancing over my shoulder, towards the front door, towards the dark corners, half expecting someone to step out. Got everything in the bag. Slinging it over my shoulder, I made for the front door. Didn't walk, practically ran. Fumbled with the push bar, shoved it open, burst out onto the quiet street. Didn't look back this time. Just kept going. Fast walk turning into a jog, until I was blocks away. Leaned against a lamppost, breathing hard, finally feeling a sliver of safety under the streetlights. The escape was real. I was out of the laundromat. That was the resolution. But the mystery, the sheer wrongness of finding that note, that lingered. How did it get there? Who wrote it? What do they mean? Were they watching me leave? Were they following me now? I scanned the empty street. Nothing. Went home, locked my door, checked the windows. Felt jumpy for days. Kept checking my pockets obsessively. It's the kind of creepy that messes with your head because it breaks basic assumptions. Your clothes, your pockets, their personal space. Finding a message like that, delivered impossibly, anonymously. It makes you feel utterly exposed, targeted by something unseen for reasons you can't fathom. It was just a tiny piece of paper, but it left a huge crack in my sense of everyday safety. There is a specific anxiety that kicks in when you read the last one left in a place that S about to close. You feel like you're holding everyone up, even if it's just the one tired employee waiting to lock the doors. You start rushing, maybe making mistakes. Happened to me at Sud City, that laundromat over by the old railroad tracks. Except it wasn't just the awkwardness of holding up the attendant. It felt like the building itself decided closing time meant things were about to get weird, and maybe trap me inside for the show. It was my own fault for cutting it so close. Plumbing backup at my apartment meant a desperate late evening run to Sud City, which closed at 10 p.m. sharp. I got there maybe 8:45 p.m., loaded up the washers. Leo, the college kid who usually worked the late shift, was already starting his closing routine, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. A couple of other people were just finishing up their drying. By the time my wash was done, around 9:30, they were gone. Just me and Leo and the hum of the machines. He was wiping down counters near the front while I loaded 2 big dryers at the back. Gotta be clear by 10, he called over, not looking up from his work. Yeah, almost done. Just drying these, I called back. The dryers needed about 30 minutes. Cutting it fine. Leo finished his wiping, emptied the trash near the front door. Around 9:50, my dryers still had maybe 10 minutes left on the digital display. He grabbed his backpack from behind the little attendant counter. Hey man, he said, walking over. Policy is I gotta lock the front door dead on 10. You cool to finish up and just hit the back emergency exit? Push bar should let you out. Locks behind you. He gestured to the heavy metal door in the back corner. "Oh, sure. No problem at all," I said, relieved he wasn't just kicking me out with damp clothes. "Cool. Lights shut off automatic at 10:15, so don't hang around too long." He gave a quick wave, went out the front, and I heard the distinct thunk of the deadbolt engaging. Okay, just me. 10 minutes on the dryers. Easy. I sat down on a plastic chair near my machines, scrolling on my phone, listening to the rhythmic tumbling. The laundromat felt bigger now, emptier. The fluorescent lights casting long shadows. 5 minutes passed. 9:55 p.m. according to my phone. Then both my dryers just stopped. Simultaneously. Mid-tumble. The rumbling died instantly. The digital displays went dark. Silence, except for the background hum of the lights and other machines. "You gotta be kidding me," I said out loud to the empty room. This was just my luck. Power surge? Breaker? I got up, went over. Pressed the start buttons. Nothing. Checked the coin slots. Empty. Looked down the row. Other dryers still had their standby lights on. Went to the breaker panel near the back wall. Everything looked fine. No switches flipped. It was only my 2 dryers that had inexplicably died, 5 minutes before the cycle should have ended. Okay, annoying, but not the end of the world. My clothes were probably mostly dry anyway, maybe just a little damp in the seams. Better than soaking wet. I pulled open the dryer doors, thankfully they weren't locked, and started pulling out the warm laundry, piling it onto the nearby folding cable. As I was reaching in for the last few socks, the block of fluorescent lights directly overhead, the ones illuminating my end of the laundromat, began to flicker rapidly. Buzz dash, flicker dash flicker dash buzz. It was intense, disorienting. Then, with a final pop, they went out completely. My section plunged into near darkness. The lights at the front half of the building, near the locked main entrance, remained on, casting long, eerie shadows down the rows of silent machines towards me. "Okay, now this is officially creepy," I whispered, pulling my phone out for its flashlight. The timing was just too perfect to be random coincidence. My dryers die, then the lights right above me die. It felt targeted. Like the building was shutting down around me, section by section. Phone flashlight on, nervously sweeping the beam around. I started folding clothes as fast as I could. Just wanted out. The silence from my dead dryers felt heavy now, amplified by the buzzing from the lights still on up front. Then, from down the row, a washer I hadn't used suddenly made a loud gurgle and slosh, like it was starting to fill with water. It ran for maybe 3 seconds, then cut out abruptly. My head whipped around, flashlight beam stabbing down the row of dark machines. Nothing. Just silence again. My heart was definitely pounding now. Nerves, old building, faulty wiring, timers maybe, had to be. But it felt like the place was playing tricks on me. I stuffed my haphazard folded clothes into my laundry bag. Time to use that back exit, Leo mentioned. Slung the bag over my shoulder, headed for the heavy metal door marked emergency exit. Put my hand on the push bar, shoved. Nothing. Solid. Pushed harder, putting my weight into it. Didn't budge an inch. It felt securely locked or bolted, but Leo said it should open from this side. Okay, maybe try the front door. Maybe Leo didn't lock it properly? I started walking quickly towards the front, flashlight beam dancing nervously ahead. As I reached the halfway point, the rest of the lights started flickering violently. The entire laundromat pulsed between harsh fluorescent glare and pitch blackness. Buzz dash flicker dash pop dash flicker dash buzz. And in one of those moments of total darkness, illuminated only by the afterimage on my retinas, I thought I saw something. A shape, tall and dark, standing just inside the front glass doors, silhouetted against the faint streetlight outside. Then the lights flickered back on, and there was nothing there. Just the locked glass doors and the empty street beyond. Imagination? Strobe effect? Maybe, but I wasn't taking chances. The flickering continued, making me dizzy, disoriented. I abandoned the front door idea, turned back towards the emergency exit. Maybe I just hadn't pushed hard enough. As I turned back, another machine whirred to life. A dryer this time, tumbling loudly for a few seconds before falling silent again. The flickering lights seemed to buzz even louder. It felt chaotic, hostile. Like the building itself was having a mechanical seizure, or maybe trying to keep me there. Reached the back door again, braced myself, hit the push bar with my shoulder, throwing all my weight into it. Nothing. Still solid. Panic started to really set in. Trapped in a dark, flickering, malfunctioning laundromat that felt increasingly like it was messing with me. Okay, think, I told myself, breathing hard. Maybe there was a manual override. Looked around the door frame with my flashlight, didn't see anything obvious. Then all the lights went out. Every single one. Total, complete darkness, except for the faint green glow of the two exit signs at the front and back. The sudden silence was absolute, terrifying. Stood frozen in the pitch black, listening. Heard a faint click from the direction of the front door. The sound of a lock disengaging. Then, slowly, impossibly, I saw the faintest line of dim light appear as the front door began to creak open. Just an inch or two. Pushed from the outside, or unlocking itself. Didn't wait to find out. Didn't care how. Spun back to the emergency exit door one last time. Lowered my shoulder and slammed into the push bar with everything I had, driven by pure adrenaline. Screech. With a horrible grinding sound, the door gave way this time, swinging outwards into the dark, rain-slicked alley behind the building. Didn't look back. Didn't think. Just scrambled out, gasping in the cool night air, letting the heavy door slam shut behind me with a satisfying thud. Ran down the alley, away from the dark laundromat, heart pounding. Reached the main street, looked back. Sud City was completely dark now. Silent. Looking completely ordinary, if closed for the night. Getting out, escaping the malfunctioning chaos, that was the resolution. But sitting in my car, catching my breath, I couldn't shake the feeling. What happened in there? A massive electrical fault hitting at closing time. Or something else. That shadow by the front door. The front door unlocking itself. The back door suddenly working only when I was truly panicked. It felt too orchestrated. Too much like a game. It left me with a deep unease about automated places late at night, about what happens when the systems break down, and the unsettling feeling that maybe sometimes the building itself doesn't want you to leave on time.